I do think it's so important for women to connect and be heard at this stage of life, and also to realize that you're just getting started. This is not the end, this is just the beginning of the rest of your life. 50 is not old anymore. 50, you're just getting started, really.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Okay, everybody. So imagine that you're 45 years old, a car accident just ended your career, you're grieving, you're lost, and you have a plane ticket to travel solo internationally for the first time, leaving in 1 week. Do you cancel the trip or do you go anyway and see what happens? Our guest today chose door number 2, and that single decision became the catalyst for a complete life transformation. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, and today we're talking with Tina Coleman, author of the provocatively titled 50 Fabulous and Fuckable. So we're going to be diving in to talk about what it means to have courage, reinvention, and refusing to be invisible. If you're ready to hear how one woman turned rock bottom into the launchpad for her most fabulous chapter yet, here we go. Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's wonderful to be here, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Absolutely. And thank you for taking the time. To our audience today, kind of going along with the topic of Tina's book, she's coming to us from Mexico today. And she told me to let you all know if we hear some, loud sounds in the background, it's fireworks. That's the kind of life Tina's living now, where she lives in a city where people just are setting off fireworks all the time due to like the culture. And it's amazing that you're living this life, Tina. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. It's been definitely interesting, and I absolutely love it. I will definitely never get Alzheimer's because I'm always changing things up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's really cool. You're giving me a little bit of background on this, but your email and before our call. I mean, you're in Mexico now. Your plans to travel and even new places pretty soon. So for anybody who's interested in Tina's lifestyle, well, this book is perfectly set for you. But yeah, let's talk about you a little bit before we dive into the book. So you had a pretty, unfortunately, troublesome upbringing and recent years too. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you had a massage therapy career, a total accident happened, the second accident in your life. Walk us through what happened.
Okay. Well, ironically enough, my first car accident got me into doing massage, which I'd never seen as a career option. But I was hit by a semi as soon as I moved from Des Moines, Iowa to Columbia, Missouri to be a spiritual teacher. And I was involved in this car accident, which luckily I was able to walk away from. But part of my treatment was massage, acupuncture, and chiropractic. And that actually got me really interested in massage as therapeutic because I'd grown up with it, like walk on my back, rub my shoulders, but never considered it a career option. And then my third car accident, I was rear-ended by an 89-year-old lady at a stoplight in Dallas, Texas, where I was living. And
Wow.
that was a week before I was due to go to Spain and Italy for the first time. And I was just like, you know what? I really want to go. And because nothing was broken, I was like, I want to do this because I booked everything non-refundable. Because when you're a massage therapist, you don't get paid when you're not working. So it was a big deal for me. And part of the impetus for me wanting to travel was because I had lost both my mom and stepdad very suddenly right before my 40th birthday. And I decided if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? Because we all have those moments in our lives where we're like, I really can't afford this. I don't have the time. I have kids. There's always some excuse not to do something. And I was just kind of like, fuck it, I'm going to do this. And it absolutely changed my life 100%. I fell in love with traveling, other cultures, meeting people. It just opened my eyes to a whole new world because I'm originally from Des Moines, Iowa.
You probably never imagined all this would come to be then.
No, I didn't, and sometimes it's funny, I'll be in different countries and hear, like, American music I would hear when I was in high school, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I never imagined I would be hearing this song, in this place." Because American music is popular all over the world.
I agree
Cool.
with you. I've traveled a bunch too, and I've seen the same
Good,
thing.
good. I
Oh,
wish I would have
I really
traveled
disagree.
earlier. It's always so interesting to be in other countries and hear American music because that brings back certain memories for me, like when I was in high school or growing up. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Like, I love music from that culture, but American music is so worldwide. Like, you hear it in every country.
Yeah, absolutely. As somebody who's traveled out myself, I was surprised to hear like old like 90s pop rock songs playing in a Singapore bar. You know what I mean? Like it was very
Oh,
interesting.
wow.
So I'm curious to know, was there a certain moment when you decided, you know what, I have to write this down and share it with others? Was there a catalyst that led to that choice?
I was terrified of turning 50. That's really where all this came from. I was absolutely terrified of turning 50. I was about 46, 47, and I just realized I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what happens when you turn 50? Like, do you die? What happens?" Because it's like, "Oh, you're gray, you're over the hill, you're washed up." We hear all those things in Western culture. And I was like, "I feel really good at like 46, 47. I'm healthy, I'm pretty vibrant." But people around me were like, "Oh, I'm 50 and this hurts and that hurts. No, I'm 45 and I'm falling apart." And I just didn't want that to be me. So I decided to become empowered and inspired by it instead of being debilitated by it. And then I was like, I want to help other women to become inspired by it. Because 50 is not old anymore. 50, you're just getting started, really.
Like, yeah, I've definitely agree with that these days. You never know what's around the corner, especially, I feel like people are just living longer and longer these days too, and there's so many more opportunities regardless of what, avenue in life you might be. So you were coming up on that 50th birthday, and then you said, I have to start writing it down. Did you release it by your 50th birthday?
No, no,
Um,
actually, I just turned 53.
okay.
So, yeah, I just turned 53 and I have been working on the book for about 4 years. I did have a publisher and that did not turn out well. The book was supposed to be out last year. So I am shooting for it to be out December 30th of this year. I am self-publishing because I think the message is important. I want women to be inspired by turning 50, knowing they can do whatever they want. They can travel, they can have the life they want, they can do the things they haven't done yet. Because life is short and we don't know how long we have. We want to think that we have, like, oh, I'll live till 90, I'll live till 100. But those years will look different than now. And just like my traveling style has changed from when I first started. So I don't know what it'll look like in 10 years.
Absolutely. So I guess we just need to be on the look because this book is coming out on the 30th of December. So a couple more months at the time of this recording. A little bit sooner by the time you're listening to now, everybody who's listening in from the audience. So first off, where can people go to stay updated about the release then? I'm sure you have a website people can check out to kind of see information about when it's coming out or something along those lines.
I do. I actually have a hub. It's beacons.ai/ transform be courageous. I am transform be courageous on Instagram and TikTok also. And the book is actually for pre-sale right now and it will be available on Amazon as well. But yeah, it'll be very accessible. And I'm doing all the tech stuff myself, so I'm linking everything together. So that's been interesting too. I'm
Okay.
not a techie person.
Right, right. But hey, that's the best way to connect with people. So we're gonna make sure to put the link in the description box today, guys, so you can be up to date
Nice.
and be ready for that big release. But yeah, let's talk about the book itself. I
Okay.
mean, um, if a woman picks up your book and she's feeling exhausted, invisible, convinced that the years are behind her, kind of like how you said you were feeling when you were starting to approach 50, what do you hope that she would get from that can give her the hope she needs?
I want them, any woman that reads the book, I want them to be inspired and to be ignited and to be in love with their life again, to know that they really can be, do, and have whatever they want at this age in life. Because this is just, you're never going to be younger than you are now. And I have a lot of self care tips in it, things to reset your nervous system. Because women are doing we're juggling a lot of things, home, work, family. And a lot of times we do get put on the back burner. We don't take care of ourselves. A lot of women think self care is just getting their hair and nails done, which is great to take care of yourself in that regard. But also getting massage, acupuncture. And I talk about other techniques and modalities in my book as well, because taking care of your entire physical body is really important. It's not a luxury. Like, you have to take care of the physical body. Because as you get older, we also have like different aches and pains and things have happened. And, so it's like you want to take good care of your body. It's like that is part of the mission of, being in your 50s and beyond, is giving yourself more self care.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you offer that as a tip because you're right. I mean, for me, I'm like, okay, let me get my nails done. I feel better. But yeah, as you grow older, you need to keep in mind all these other things they might not think about. So the book kind of walks you through exactly what you are, different options of how to do that, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And some techniques like were actually even new to me that I hadn't really had much experience with, like Feldenkrais. And that's a very gentle form of movement to help your muscles to function in a different way. Because we always think of weightlifting and cardio and, things are a little bit more intense rather than things that can actually help unwind and retrain the muscles to function in a different way.
Absolutely. So, okay, awesome, guys. So, if you can look into this book when it comes out, you'll learn all about that and figure out what's best for you, right? Maybe
Exactly.
acupuncture is not good for someone, but might be for somebody else. So, it's good that you gave options for that. So, kind of speaking of the writing process, then, how did you decide which tips to add in there, which ones not to? I mean, the world's full of a wealth of information. Did you have a process for that sort of outline?
No, it's been so hard for me actually.
Oh,
I know it was so incredibly hard for me because being a therapist of 20 years and having a lot of modalities to pull on, I also certified in yoga and Pilates as well. It's like I want to include everything. And I actually cut a chapter from the book. It might still end up being in there, but it was strictly on alternative therapies, because I'm like, I, it's a lot of information. Not everyone wants to read about all those things, but they are important because a lot of the self care techniques you can do at home. And emotional freedom technique, EFT or tapping, is also a big one that I absolutely love. And I do talk about that in the book.
okay, awesome. I'm glad that like you have all the information embedded in there, but even though it is hard to decide what went in and what didn't. But what about the, day-to-day process of writing the book? Were you writing it as you were traveling? And if so, what did that look like for you?
Yes, actually, and for anyone that's trying to write a book, this is like the best tip ever, is actually talking and speaking it into a Google Doc. That is the best thing to do because then you can do it when you're out and about because you'll get ideas and inspiration. And you don't always have something to write it down in, or you don't have the time to write it down. You can literally speak into your phone and then double check to make sure it's actually what you said. Because sometimes I was like, I did not say that, because Google Docs is different. But that's the easiest way to get started on writing, is just to speak it into a document. And then you can edit that very easily. Then you're not chained to a computer, because I am not a big computer person. And sitting down for, hours and hours and hours in front of a computer is not something I like to do. But I did write this book all over the world. I actually wrote my book proposal in the beginning of it in San Cristobal, Mexico. And then a large portion of it was actually written in Antalya, Turkey, because I was living in Turkey for 8 months. And then I finished it in Egypt, actually looking at the Nile River.
That is so inspiring. I haven't been there before. That's beautiful to think about. I mean, not everybody
It,
has that luxury though to go all the way to Egypt to write their books and sit by the Nile River. I mean, I guess I could say people can head to their local parks or just get a change of scenery might have the same effect. What do you think?
Absolutely. Doing whatever can put you in a different environment to help stimulate that creativity is so important. Because when you're in a different environment, it's going to help you see different things and it's going to inspire you in different ways. So whatever you can do to change that up and do things that you really enjoy, like go to like a fancy hotel that has a beautiful cafe, go outside, go for a walk, go into nature, go to the beach, whatever you can do that. And for me, it was just so inspiring to travel. It's something that I really love to do. And I was actually traveling for a year through Europe and Turkey. And I was like, my trip will not be complete unless I go to Egypt, because it was one of my big three, like from when I was a kid. So that's why I went to Egypt.
All right. Well, I love that. I'm glad. Thanks for walking us through the decision process too. Hey, it's on my to-do list too, one of these days. um,
Exactly.
yeah. So I guess I'm curious to know, like, did you work with editors, beta readers, coaches during this writing process, and how did that work, especially going to different places while writing?
Well, I had a publisher at the time, and so we did do editorial sessions, and I actually came back to Mexico to work with her to do the editorial process. Like I cut out my entire summer last summer to work with her, and unfortunately, she was not really as into it didn't go as well as I would have hoped, or I didn't get the attention and time that I really would have hoped for with the book. So now I am working with advanced reader copies, readers, and an editor that's a friend of mine, and doing a lot of it myself. So self-publishing, like the writing part of the book is actually the easy part. It's the promoting and editing for me that's really challenging.
Of course, yeah, I can only imagine, like, it probably just flows out of you, like, you're and you have inspiration, you're just talking to the phone on the on the voice recording app. It's simple, but I get in making those corrections. It's, time consuming and also a little bit draining to think like, I really liked this, but now looking back at it, it's not good enough. We have to do something about it. I understand that a lot of people face the same challenges. I'm wondering if you have a specific moment that you remember over others that was more challenging for you, like it's a particular part of the book, for example, that you kept getting stuck on.
Well, the hardest part of the book for me to write, actually, the book is broken up into three different sections. The first part is like, you're amazing, you're wonderful, it's fabulous. And the middle part, which I originally had planned for the end, is on wills and pre planning and things and death, things that nobody wants to talk about. But when you're turning 50, you have to look at these things and have things in place. And so I had to really Google a lot of those things. I had a life insurance license, and I also sold funerals during COVID. So I actually have that background, which made those parts easier, but some of the things I didn't know about. And then how do you make that where it's not such a heavy topic? Because the book is supposed to be a fun read, informative, and engaging. And so it's like, how do you make that fun? How do you make people want to read about this? Because it's not something anybody really wants to talk about. And unfortunately, most people don't talk about it until you have to, until it's kind of too late. So I try to make that interesting and fun and give readers tips to make the process easier for them and their loved ones. So that was really the hardest part of the book. And I was even like, are people really going to want to read this? But I think it's so important, especially at this stage in life, to have it in there.
Understood. Right. So thanks for walking us through that. I think authors everywhere come to those sort of roadblocks and they're not sure like what direction to take or what to put in, what to leave out. And it's good that you got through that and that serves as a great example for others. And speaking of an example for others, I'm wondering, do you have a certain vision in mind for the book's impact? What eventual effect do you hope that you see in the world once it gets out there?
Oh my goodness. I think it's such a great time for the book to come out because a lot of women are really focusing on being 50 and menopause, and a lot of celebrities are too. So I'm really hoping this book will be very impactful for millions of women. And I'm hoping that it has long staying power so that women will be reading this, when I'm 90. So I'm hoping for that type of effect. The other thing is that I'm looking for this book to be kind of a launching pad for my larger vision, which is to create international co-living spaces for women that are midlife so we can encourage each other, teach each other, lift each other up. So the book is my starting point.
All right. Well, I love that. And, I guess the next step then would be like maybe perhaps like maybe building like a platform or getting out there and talking to people, doing some speaking engagements. Have you thought about that sort of thing?
Yes, and that's why I'm doing a lot of podcasts right now, a lot of them, and I did just create the Indeed profile for my speaking career, so I'm also wanting to launch that because I do think it's so important for women to connect and be heard at this stage of life, and also to realize that you're just getting started. This is not the end, this is just the beginning of the rest of your life.
I love that. And just getting started with the rest of your life. That's a beautiful way to phrase it and a great quote that kind of like overarches your entire methodology here. You know what I mean? Because it's not the end. You're just getting started.
No,
We're still
exactly.
living, breathing.
Exactly, and we're so fortunate to be at this time in history where we have accessibility to so many other things. We have accessibility to great healthcare, and we can take better care of ourselves. We have more knowledge, we have information, and our lives are very different. My life is very different than what my mother's life was. Um, she passed very suddenly at 58, and she was like kind of acting like an 80-year-old lady. Like she just wasn't very healthy and mobile. So it's like being, getting movement in your life, taking care of yourself. We have those opportunities and that knowledge these days that other, generations maybe didn't really realize or be aware of.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you kind of had that some person to like learn from. Um, I love that. As we begin to wrap up today, then Tina, I'm curious to know if you have any other bits of writing advice for the audience today, anything they can hold on to and take with them as they continue their day.
Well, the reason why I called it 50 Fabulous and Fuckable is this is a time in your life where you get to step into your power. You
Mm,
really get to understand who you are and, be able to create the life for yourself that you wanted. Because by the time you're 50, you've made a lot of mistakes. We've also had the relationships, the education, the kids, all different kinds of things in our life. So we have that wisdom to draw upon. We'll make new mistakes, like I do, definitely. But it's like it's a time in your life where you can really create a lot of change momentum very quickly in your life and to really, get out there and travel the world and see it and be inspired by other people and cultures and not limit yourself to be like, oh, well, I'm 50 and it's too late for me to do this. Like, no, this is your time to fucking go out there and kick ass. Like, it's your time to like just be like, yes, I'm doing this because we don't know how long we have left. We don't. I've lost a lot of family members very, very suddenly, which has also created the impetus for my lifestyle that I do have right now.
sure.
Because I want to see as much of the world and do the things I want to do now, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
No.
We're not. But it's like live your life, enjoy it, and those things that you thought maybe you couldn't do or didn't have time to do or haven't done yet, like because of the kids or the relationship or work or whatever, go do them. Like, it's, no matter what it is, even if it's just like, taking up dancing or knitting or, doing a little bit of traveling, even if it's like, in your city or to the next state. It can be those small little steps that really create the big changes. Because when I decided I wanted to start traveling, I started traveling, to other states and other cities in the United States. And I am a very anxious traveler, so it was really challenging for me. But it's like you have to do those things that scare you. Otherwise, you're not going to create the life that you love and that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that you also said like you don't have to go far, just maybe to the next city, just get out of the house a little bit. You never know what you might learn and be inspired by. That's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And everybody has a different way they want to travel, different things that they want to do that are on their bucket list, so to speak. So realize that it's not too late. And you do have to realize that whatever is on your heart, whatever desires you have are put there for a reason. And you were meant to do them, no matter how crazy they seem.
Absolutely. So I think that's a beautiful way to kind of wrap up today. That's a great first step that people can take after listening to this podcast today. So this is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your incredible insights with us. I mean, you show us that there's no age limit out there. You can make everything, it can be a fabulous beginning if you put your mind to it. So I love it.
Ab Absolutely, and I do have a couple of freebies on my site that the women here are more than welcome to take advantage of. One is on travel, just it's kind of to inspire you to travel and, like, get over some of your excuses and little things that you need to take with you on a first trip. The other one is on self-love. So I do have some freebies, so definitely check those out, and I really would love women to be inspired by the message that I have in my book and my lifestyle.
I love that. Well, guys, we're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast today. I mean, how lucky, a bunch of freebies, right? You never know
I
what you
know,
can
right?
click on over or download it, right?
Exactly, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Danielle. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to the book when it comes out. And everybody else, again, click on those links to get connected. And until next time, remember that your story isn't over. In fact, it might be getting to the good part. And if you have that story, don't forget to write it down. Head to Authors on a Mission. You could always get some assistance with ghostwriting, editing, marketing, whatever have you.
Nice.
And just remember, keep writing, keep leading, and keep inspiring. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast. That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.